Thank you. The next, combining two questions from the audience, and they are addressed to all individuals, and we will start with Sandy Masin. State finances have lurched from crisis to crisis with dishonest gimmicks and borrowing. Will the new proposed budget eliminate this? And then piggybacking onto this, where is the Department of Waste and Overspending on here? What percent of the human, of health services, I can't read all this, what percent of the health and human services is cash welfare? I guess I don't understand that one quite as well, but basically it's where is the Department of Waste and Overspending, and will the new proposals in the budget eliminate dishonest gimmicks and borrowing? Sandy?
That to me is a oh, you want to go ahead?
That last one, I think the what percent of the health and human services is welfare. I don't know the current percentage. It's a number that the cash payments and so on is it's a number that about we tried to compile. It ends up being a very it was like 7%, I think. That's just a perspective. I'm sure that's not the exact number now, but it's a pretty small percent of the health and human services budget. Most of the health and human services budget is going for health care related things, and most of it's actually going to senior citizens, or I shouldn't say senior citizens, to elderly people, things like nursing homes and those kinds of payments. So there are those cash payments in there. There is what would be called welfare in there, but it's a pretty small percentage of it.
Okay, Sandy.
Okay, item one, that's what I campaigned on, is that I'm committed to doing away with the gimmicks. Certainly the school ships, the borrowing on the tobacco funds, to me were totally irresponsible. I wanted something for long term, and I'm going to make a couple of things. One is, for instance, again, going back to meeting with the county officials, when they're talking about the human services budget, they're saying, you know, the more that we can get technology advances, it would make their job a lot easier and more efficient. And that is one of the, because right now I think there are about 4 programs that I'm thinking of with that the county has to relate to. I think like child support, child care, and there's a couple others. And right now the data has to be put in from every single one of those programs. So if there's a way we can get the technology to make it so they only put in the information once and it's available to everybody, that's going to be a time saving. There's one other thing that listening to public safety the other day, they're doing a project about fraud, and what they're doing is going through all the driver's license and comparing faces, and so to see where there's duplications of faces, and maybe in some cases it's a matter of twins, it might be somebody that changed their names, but the deal is how many people other than that have more than one driver license, and that makes it easier for them to fraud. So those are things that I think we need to be looking at.
Representative Morgan.
It's been a while since you asked a question.
Yeah.
Question.
I will repeat them again. State finances have lurched from crisis to crisis with dishonest gimmicks and borrowing. Will the new proposed budget eliminate this? And where is the Department of Waste and Overspending on here?
I hope that we come up with a budget solution that does not rely on gimmicks and borrowing. That would be my preference. I think that is what we have in the end. The proof will be in the pudding come May. There's probably waste in a lot of places. I think the question is how much, and how much does it cost to find it all? Sometimes fraud is very hard to track down. And how many people do we have to hire to track down all the fraud, and how much are we saving based on how much are we spending? Does that help the budget? Does that hurt the budget? These are all things that we have to continue to examine at the state level. We have to look for waste, we have to look for fraud, we have to find efficiencies. We all deserve it as taxpayers.
I don't know.
We all deserve the best value for our taxpayer dollars. So I'm committed to doing that, continue to do that as I did there 4 years ago.
Thank you. Bill Marks, do you wish to comment on either of these questions? No? Okay. We do have quite a few questions. We will-
Okay, good.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim.
The new budget, yes. The answer to that is yes. This budget is intended to stop the gimmicks, to stop the seesaw, to stop having the counties, the school districts, and all of those people that get, or those organizations that get money from the state government so that they can plan a bit better. And in fact, I didn't add that to my the answer to the last question is that when we talk about cutting something, that's the charge now that the legislators have from the governor is if you're talking about not paying for something, come up with an alternative. Either come up with where you're going to save the money or come up with how else you're going to collect the revenue. So that's the charge that I also want to hear from you too, is that we're not going to cut out all the nursing homes. It's just not going to happen. If you want to do that, then come up with the alternative. If you think that perhaps the big community can step in or something like that with billions of dollars, then let's hear that. I wanted to mention about fraud and waste. Of course there is, but we do have to go after it. And like Representative Morgan said, you have to hire people to do that. The EBT cards is something that people have talked about a lot. And that's the electronic. It's the credit card that people use, electronic benefits. And some people have used those, sold those, done really bad things with them. But the average transaction is somewhere around $10. So do we spend $500 to go after a $10 fraud? And in fact, the department has said over and over again that these EBT cards are a much more efficient way of controlling our expenditures in that particular area. So EBT cards are actually the solution to something that we've had in the past.
Okay, thank you. And it's been asked that the representatives speak more loudly or closer to your microphone, as some people cannot hear in the back. We're going to move on. I'm going to combine two for education and read both of them, and we'll be starting out with Representative Will Morgan. And this one was addressed specifically to him. As an educator and state representative, please address how you can support the governor's potential delaying the money owed to the school districts. And do you support the governor's proposal to take away local school districts' levy authority to fund integration programs? Okay, Will Morgan, Representative?
My preference would be that we pay back the shift by the end of this biennium. That would be my preference. The governor has said that we should do it by the end of the following biennium. There's a difference there. There are relative costs there. There are implications for school districts. Some school districts are telling us the end of the next biennium is fine. Some school districts are telling us, no, we really want to have that money now. We're going to have those conversations. My preference right now would be to pay it back this biennium. So I'm not, again, the governor and his people put his budget together. They didn't consult us. We don't work for him. So there are a lot of details about the governor's budget that we're still waiting to get to and hear about in committee hearings. So I'm not actually aware of that proposal. So before I comment on it, I'd really like to know more of the details. Philosophically speaking, I like more local control for school districts rather than less. But when it gets down to specific issues, sometimes there are reasons to do things a different way. So I'd like to know more about that proposal before I answer.
Okay, Senator Carlson?
Can you read that again?
Yes.
I need to be sure that I'm...
Do you support the governor's proposal to take away local school districts' authority to levy to fund the integration programs? And the second one, as an educator and a state representative, please address how you can support the governor's potential delaying the money owed to the school districts.
I'm going to answer them in reverse order. The delay of the repayment has been something, as Representative Morgan said, has not been something the school districts have demanded. They've already adjusted to the shift. And what the past legislature did is they gave them some money to pay interest if they had to borrow, and so they've done that. What they do want, and also, by the way, you saw from Bill's presentation that the cash flow accounts and the reserves have been brought back to brought whole. If we would decide to pay it back in this next biennium, we'd have to raise more revenue. Because the payback and the payback that was offered from the last legislature was to take it from the reserves. So we would have drained the reserves, and that would have put us back into the same problem. So now the governor has increased the yearly amount to schools, and then said we're going to pay back the shift later on. And I'm comfortable with that if the school districts are comfortable with it. And as far as the taking away levy authority, I'm supportive of the giving the school boards more levy authority. For instance, we've had to go through referendums just to renew some of these special levies, and they've asked for authority to renew the levies without a referendum. Now the problem what we've had in the past is this is historical in that Jesse Ventura changed it so that we didn't have referendums. There was a suit, and the suit was won by the wealthy school districts that wanted to be able to pay more. They wanted to be able to have a referendum, so the law was changed to allow these referendums, but then they had to go to the people each time. Now, so we took it away, and we gave it back partially. So in my case, I feel that school board members are elected, and they should be able to, in fact, they say that all the time to us, that they're the only ones that cannot use their authority to levy.